Good morning. Happy Monday. All's right in the world again today. We've got dogs on leashes. We're back in our home stomping territory. And we've got things to talk about. First thing I'd like to talk about is just in general, I want everybody to remember that I devote a 10-minute-ish video. Typically, I try to keep it below 10, like a 5 to 10-ish video. 5 to 10 minute video. On a subject that would typically expand volumes. You are getting very much the Cliff's Notes version. Remember that. I don't go into everything. I go into things that, number one, I think are going to be important for auditors. And number two, are relevant to the facts at hand, because I do try to tie it into facts. So if I'm talking about a story that isn't newsworthy, I'm not going to talk about the newsworthiness of a story. If I then go on to explain that yes, there is a newsworthiness element to it, and no, you're not newsworthy, that's my belief. And you have to remember that you're not going to be judged by a group of auditors. Your best hope is that you're judged by a judge who is less likely to be swayed by feelings, unless, of course, you're the plaintiff, in which case you want the jury, because if you're suing an auditor, the jury's going to look at the auditor with contempt, because welcome to America, auditors aren't well received. The intent would play a role. The intent of the auditor. If I was the plaintiff, the attorney for the plaintiff, I would want to bring in the intent to show that, number one, there was nothing newsworthy there for them to cover, and number two, they didn't cover anything newsworthy. As a result, their actual intent was to try to bait the staff into saying or doing something wrong. Their intent was to create news, and the story that they ended up releasing was completely unrelated to anything ever, and they're just really bad people. On the other hand, if I was the attorney for the defense, I would want to bring in intent. Why, you ask? Well, because obviously, Your Honor, my client is in the business of providing news about government employees who fail to uphold the First Amendment and fail to understand the First Amendment. And I have a loyal fan base of people who watch it, who are interested in that kind of news. Thus, my intent was to get that interaction, and I got the interaction. Intent does play an element. I know some people who think they're really smart, and probably are, don't understand the way this is all working, but it is going to play into it. And other things will play into it too, especially when it comes to determining damages, because juries like to award stiffer damages against people they don't like, and attorneys know that, and attorneys will bring in lots of information that you may otherwise think is not relevant. And if you think that I'm lying, I would challenge you to take a minute to peruse Mr. Radner's preliminary injunction request in the Leon Valley case, where he's bringing up lots and lots of things that aren't on the warrant that he's trying to get quashed, suppressed, whatever, enjoined. And the reason he's doing that is because you can lose a case if you don't argue the point that needed to be argued. You can lose a case if you don't argue the issue that would have swayed the finder of fact. And so the safest approach is to throw everything out and see what sticks. The spaghetti method. And that's what you would also do in a tort claim for an invasion of privacy tort. That's just the way it works. So, yeah, if you don't understand what's going on, don't worry about it. You're not a lawyer. I'm very sure that intent would come into it, and I'm also about 90% sure that nothing would be newsworthy. Better questions would be who would be likely to sue and win, or who'd be likely to sue first, and who'd be likely to win second. I think the best odds of winning, not necessarily the best odds of suing, would be the receptionist, who was minding her own damn business, doing nothing newsworthy, and still managed to end up in the story, in air quotes, story. She had nothing to do with it. Her interaction in it wasn't newsworthy. Her tangential relationship to it was, even if it was considered newsworthy, her tangential relationship to it would be not worthy of having included her, especially against her will. Best chance of winning. Now, is that a winning case? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think she'd get rich doing it, even if she did win. But could she win? Yeah. Most likely to sue would be I'm going to say Walter Craddock. I think that was his name, because he has the money and he probably knows enough about the law to know that he might have something. Now, he probably won't represent himself because he probably knows enough about the law to know that he doesn't understand enough, and he'd probably want to hire someone. But he also probably has enough money to be able to sue somebody and do it to make a point rather than make a profit, because you probably wouldn't make a profit off of Granite State transparency. Now, he would be least likely to win, in my opinion, because the whole modus operandi of Granite State transparency and the auditing movement is, as I stated previously, to catch government officials slipping. And he slipped, and she caught him. And ta-da! News. At least in relationship to him. So, he'd be the best chance of winning. Now, do I think he would win? He's closer. He's like a 60-40 win. But, he could always sue, and that would always suck. Especially since it happened in Rhode Island, and he could sue in Rhode Island, etc. Anyway, that said, Earl asked a question for his subscribers. I'm one of his subscribers, so I guess I get to answer. I'm not going to leave a comment below. Whether it's baiting what auditors do to cops, and absolutely it is. And is it morally wrong? That's a good question. And to that, I would have to say that it really depends on how the baiting is taking place. If the auditor is just filming, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But there could be circumstances like where the auditors go into, let's say where the auditors call the police on themselves. I think that's less, you're forcing the interaction. Where auditors run into, or they go into post offices, act asshats out of themselves, make asshats out of themselves, and then go back to the sidewalk to wait for the police. Again, I don't like that. I don't think that is right. But for an auditor just to be doing his thing, taking pictures, I don't have an issue with that, personally. I thought that's what the whole movement was about. But I have a feeling that Earl asked it because he wanted interaction. That's going to get his numbers up. He's going to get those comments in his comment section. And people are going to share it because they want to swing the poll. So, good for him. He's He's good at using marketing. I don't think he would change one bit, no matter which way that particular pole swung. And he's fairly safe in doing it, considering that his audience is going to primarily be fans of auditing. And knowing Earl, I would strongly suspect that he does curate his comments somewhat closely to remove negative comments, or at least some of them. Maybe he just blocks people who are too negative too often. Who knows? But just judging from his strong propensity to try to get people shut down, I would bet that given the power to do it himself, he would simply push the button, as it were. I think that was about all that I had to talk about today. The dogs were very happy to see us, and they got very bored very quickly. Days of running and playing with other dogs tend to be a lot more fun than chilling on the couch with Dad. But you know what? I didn't spend all that money on them so that I could not chill on the couch with them. So there you go. That's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.